The wind roars through the night as Delta Flight 4819 fights against the storm. Its engines booming over Toronto Pearson International Airport. Snow slams into the runway, swallowing the lights below. Inside, passengers grip their armrest, their breathing tight as the plane jerks from turbulence. The pilot's voice crackles over the intercom, steady but firm, telling everyone to brace for landing. Outside, powerful gusts hammer the aircraft, turning a simple descent into a full-on struggle. Then, impact. The wheels hit, but something is off. A sickening jolt rips through the jet as the right landing gear buckles. Metal screeches against pavement, and the plane skids sideways, tilting at a stomach-dropping angle. How bad is this going to get? Shrieks fill the cabin as the aircraft flips, slamming onto its roof before scraping to a stop. For a moment, nothing moves. Then everything erupts into chaos as the Delta Flight 4819 sits on its back, but what exactly led to this? Let's find out. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and give us your opinion. On February 17, 2025, a Delta Airlines plane crashed at Toronto Pearson International Airport, causing shock and raising big concerns about safety. Delta Flight 4819, a Bombardier CRJ-900, was on a regular trip from Minneapolis to Toronto. Everything seemed fine until the plane got close to the airport, where strong winds and heavy snow made things tricky for the pilots. The flight had taken off from Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport without any trouble. Passengers, including families, business travelers, and crew members, expected a normal trip. But as they got closer to Toronto, the weather took a turn for the worse. Winds were hitting 40 miles per hour, and the thick snow made it hard to see, making the landing even more dangerous. At 6:45 p.m. local time, Flight 4819 made its final approach. The runway was covered in ice and snow, and the plane struggled the moment it touched down. Then, out of nowhere, the right landing gear seemed to give out, sending the aircraft skidding across the runway. Can you imagine the fear as the plane flipped over before finally coming to a stop, resting on its side? Inside the cabin, everything went crazy. Overhead bins flew open, tossing luggage everywhere. People screamed as oxygen masks dropped and emergency lights flashed. The flight crew didn't waste a second, working fast to get everyone out safely despite the chaos. Rescue teams got there fast and got straight to work helping people off the plane. Somehow, all 80 passengers and crew made it out alive, but 21 ended up with injuries. Some just had a few bruises while others had broken bones. Most of the injured were sitting near the part of the plane that hit first or had trouble getting out after it flipped. Officials wasted no time locking down the crash site and figuring out what went wrong. Delta Airlines was just glad nobody died, but they admitted the whole situation was out of hand. They promised to work with investigators and do whatever was needed to make sure something like this didn't happen again. Once photos and videos of the flipped plane started popping up online, people had questions. How did this even happen? Some started pointing fingers at Delta's safety rules, wondering if they were really prepared for bad weather landings. The crash quickly became a big topic among pilots and aviation experts, with lots of concerns for airline safety. The investigation into Delta Flight 4819 kicked off right away. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada, TSB, the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, and Delta's safety team all jumped in to figure out what caused the crash. Early reports suggested bad weather played a role, along with possible mechanical issues, but a full review was needed to be sure. Investigators started with the plane's maintenance records. The Bombardier CRJ-900 was a well-known regional jet with a solid safety history. Delta was known for staying on top of upkeep, and there hadn't been any past reports of trouble with this aircraft. But after hearing from witnesses and watching early footage, investigators focused on the landing gear, which looked like it gave out on touchdown. They also pulled data from the black boxes, which recorded everything from pilot conversations to how the plane handled before the crash. The cockpit voice recorder showed that the pilots knew the landing would be rough. They talked about turbulence and sudden wind shifts before coming in, making it clear they were expecting a tough approach. Then came the question everyone was asking: did the bad weather play a bigger role than expected? Pilots rely on calculations and live updates to adjust their landings. But strong winds can throw everything off. Could a sudden gust right before touchdown have messed up the landing and put too much pressure on the gear? That was something experts were looking into. Another thing they checked was the runway itself. If the wheels didn't grip the icy surface the way they should, the pilots might have lost control after landing. Investigators looked at airport records to see if the runway had been de-iced properly and if the usual friction tests were done before Flight 4819 came in. The flight crew's actions were put under a microscope, but early reports said they did everything they were supposed to. The pilot had been flying regional jets for over 10 years and had landed in bad weather plenty of times. The co-pilot was newer but had spent a lot of time in simulators practicing rough landings. Investigators went through their communication and how they handled the emergency to see if anything had been missed. Moving forward, experts are debating if landing rules need to be tightened in extreme weather. Some thought certain planes should have to reroute if the winds got strong enough. Others pushed for better ways to check runway conditions so planes wouldn't lose traction on icy pavement. With the final report still in the works, people are expecting airlines to do more to make winter landing safer. The Delta crash was a wake-up call that even a normal flight could turn into an emergency in no time. It just proved again why airlines can't get too comfortable when it comes to safety. Thankfully, no one lost their life in the Delta Flight 4819 accident, but it still made people rethink airline safety rules. Well, it will be a big debate. Should weather airlines let planes land in bad winter weather without extra safety checks? Pilots are trained for tough conditions, but icy runways and shifting winds make things tricky. Some aviation experts push for better wind shear detection so pilots could get real-time data before landing. Others thought airlines should change flight schedules during snowstorms to cut down on risky landings. After the crash, Delta Airlines said it would take another look at how it handles winter flights. The company promised to work with regulators to improve pilot training, aircraft maintenance, and communication during flights. They also said better de-icing technology was a must to keep runways safer when snow and ice start piling up. But what about passengers? Social media was full of people sharing stories about rough landings and close calls. Some wanted airlines to be more upfront about the risks of flying in bad weather, while others pushed for stricter landing rules, blaming the new Trump administration. Over time, technology has improved flight tracking, turbulence forecasting, and emergency response. But as this accident showed, even the best systems can fail when the weather takes a nasty turn. And trust me, I'm from Michigan. I know all about weather taking a nasty turn on a drop of a dime. One possible long-term effect of the Delta crash was a fresh look at automated landing support. Some aviation experts thought using AI-driven controls more could help cut down on mistakes during tricky landings. Pilots would still be in charge, but real-time data and automatic tweaks could add an extra layer of safety. Toronto Pearson's International Airport, in particular, took heat for how it handled the situation. People questioned whether its de-icing process was good enough, and if more could have been done to prepare the flight. But really, how much can be done to prevent something like this? The Delta Flight 4819 crash was a scare for many who also had flights to catch. No single fix could stop every accident. But lessons from this were expected to help improve airline rules, passenger awareness, and airport procedures. Well, we all saw Delta 4819 flight rise into the sky. But as the saying goes, the higher the rise, the harder the fall.